Hello and welcome to another broadcast of Breaking Borders and Shattering Paradigms for November the 12th. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, how are you doing? Um, so I can see how many people are viewing, but I can't see who you are. So thanks, Ellie, for shouting out and saying hey. I actually planned on doing this like 45 minutes ago, but the network decided I wasn't going to. Yeah, you gotta love it when technology works, and then when it doesn't, you go, oh. For those of you that have tuned in for the first time, the show has two components. The first one is something that we call the 777 Club. It's a private group, it's a subscription. This one is on Facebook. It's focused, or the main structure is the 5-step manifesting process that we teach in the home study courses and in-person events and all that type of thing. And so what I do in this show is I call it sort of a free 777 mini tip. So it gives you a little bit of a sampling. It's a useful tip, so it's not just like an advertisement. It's a useful tip that you can apply today. And if you want to know more, or if you want to join the group, of course, you can just DM me and I'll send you the information to register for that. The second portion is what we call convergence, or the label we're using is convergence method, which is the re-emergence of, we're calling the feminine flow, and this is showing up all over the place now. And so I just give a little bit of a topic as it relates to that. So we also have a private Facebook group for that one called The Conversations We All Want to Have. That one, it's not a subscription or anything like that, but to be part of the group, I will need to send you an invite. And so you can, if you want to know more about that, you can also DM me about that as well. All right, so without further ado, let's head into the 777 Club. So often, and many of you, I don't have my other curtain up. Well, that's okay. Often, those of you that have been to any of the workshops have seen the circles and triangles, or virtual things online that I use. One of the words or descriptors for that, I call it maps. So when you think about it, what does a map allow you to do? So if you have a map and an understanding how the map works, if you find yourself, I'm going to say, in a neighborhood or another city or something like that you've never been in before, if you have a map of the city and you know how to navigate the map, then you can kind of take that and you can start to explore. Where if you didn't have a map, you're kind of just wandering around and looking for the coffee shops and the grocery stores and all this type of things. So a map is a really handy navigation tool we can use to explore a territory or a neighborhood or a city, think about that we've never visited before. So what does that have to do with what's going on right now? Well, you know, in your neighborhood, you probably have a favorite coffee shop, grocery store, restaurant, things like that you go to. And you know how to get there. You know where the one-way streets are. You know where the shortcuts are. So you have a pretty good idea, or an internal map, if you will, of the neighborhood that you're currently living in. And that works really well. But, and this is going to sound like a ludicrous example, but there's a very powerful teaching under this. So if you have a map of Red Deer, you know how to use it to navigate Red Deer, and Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, for those of us you are tuning in from elsewhere. Well, that map works really good for navigating Red Deer. But if you went, let's say, to Edmonton, let's say you've never been to Edmonton before, if you take that map of Red Deer to Edmonton, it's not going to work worth a damn, is it? Now you go, well, duh, but just stick with me here. Why is the Red Deer map not going to work in Edmonton? Because you're in a different neighborhood, or in this case, a different city. Now that map works really well if you're navigating Red Deer, but if you're in Edmonton, it's not going to work well at all, is it? Now, what is the teaching from this? And any of you that have been watching for any length of time have heard me talk about looking at the past, I will say 2 years. And I mean, that's just when we've been seeing. This has been in process. This process has been in progress. There you go. For a long, who knows how long. We're just seeing it manifest. That it's been sort of 3 phases. And the first phase can feel a lot like destruction, like the losing of things, the losing of freedoms, if you will, things like that, confinement, that type of thing. Then it moves through to the second phase, and the second phase is like a restoration, not so much restoration. It's really kind of an inward looking at the areas in your personal experience. It's very much an inward experience journey. And it's finding those spots that maybe need to be healed, maybe need to be strengthened, maybe need to be explored, more of an internal experience or journey. And then we've moved into the third phase. Now, the third phase is this brand new city. Now, it doesn't mean that, so if you think of it in some respects, so the first phase, you moved into a city where the buildings were burning down around you. Then you moved into the second phase, which is another city where it's like they were repairing foundations and fixing cracks in streets and doing all this. They weren't really building a lot of stuff, but they were fixing a lot of the existing. Then you move to the third city, the third phase. And in this new city, there are a lot of things that are fundamentally different from the second and especially the first where you started from. One of the teachings that I have received and I've shared with people a variety of times is the map or maps, the rules, the limitations, the confinements, the borders, right? The paradigms that we used to navigate our experience maybe worked or didn't work with the old city. But now we've been parachuted into this brand new city. And for me, in so many respects, the best thing I can do now is take this map that I used and set it on fire. Because the map that I used to navigate that old city will not work in the new city. Maybe the map worked fine back then. I don't know, but it won't work now because everything is so fundamentally different. We have access to resources, which I'll touch on in the second portion, which is the convergence portion of this, that we never had access to before. So the name of the show, right? I just lost the name of the show. There we go. Breaking borders, shattering paradigms, right? There's those limitations, those limiting beliefs, those parameters. I use the example of a corral, right? You're stuck in a corral and you can just only get to the edges of the corral and you can see the world beyond it, but you can't get to it. Well, so many of those corrals have burnt down or laying in shambles. So many of those obstructions that have blocked your vision, so many of those things that have confined your dreams have burnt down. They're in rubble around us. Now, why is that so important to understand? Because the maps that you used to navigate your old experience were used to navigate those, and they're not here anymore. And the common themes that I hear over and over and over again are, now is the time to dream again. Now is the time to dream big again. Now is the time to begin to believe in the impossible again. Now is the time to take those desires, those deep, heartfelt desires, the things that make your heart sing, that for so many, for so long, you've thought about them and loved the way they feel and you can never have them. So after a while, it's like you put them in a closet and you just leave them there. And I don't even think about it because those desires that I used to think about and they felt so good, when I would think about them and I'd pull them out and look at them, I didn't feel good anymore. It actually made me feel worse because all it did was highlight something that I knew I could never have. And so this is very good. And so you've tried to condition yourself to live within mediocrity. And in varying degrees, it has worked not very well. And so often we take those habitual ways of thinking, those maps, and we're trying to use them to navigate this new city. And you can try, but do you really want to? Do you want to bring? And I'm not saying you're old life, new life. I'm not saying that things were crap. Maybe they were. I don't know. I'm not saying that you throw everything out. What I'm suggesting is that you kind of throw out the rule book and start to just navigate, start to just test out this brand new experience that we're in now. Because so many of the rules that you had to live by, they just don't apply anymore. Now is the time to believe again. And I know easier said than done. Absolutely. Especially if you've had something, you've had a flavoring of something, and then you've lost it. To believe that you could have it again, right? It can be very, very scary. Because it's almost like if I choose to believe again, like really believe again, like put my heart in it, not just, touch on it, but really put my heart in it and believe again. What if the outcome is simply that painful reminder that something that truly makes my heart sing is an experience I'll never, ever be able to have? And so stepping out and opening your heart again, after in some respects it's been closed for so long, it feels very vulnerable. It feels very scary because you're saying, one more time, I'm going to choose to believe, not just here, but choose to believe again. And I know what that's like. And why would this time be different? The reason this time can be and will be different is because you're in a whole new city. And those things that confined you before, they're not here anymore. You can try and drag them through with you, and there's people that will, which will be, something. So they'll create their own prison within freedom. And they'll be the one that creates it. And I'm going to wrap up this segment, but I guess the question that I would pose to you, I was going to say, do you want it bad enough? I'm going to phrase that better. I know that you know what makes your heart sing. I know that even though you haven't thought about them for a long, long time, those dreams, those desires are still close by. Will you bring them out again? Will you choose to believe just one more time? Will you choose to let go of those dreams and allow them to flow within your heart just one more time? Because things are different now. And you just never know what the outcome might be. Maybe it won't be the same as every other time. Don't you owe it to yourself to choose to believe just one more time? All right, 777 free mini tip. Let's move on to convergence method. Okay, so convergence method is just a label. It's a label for the re-emergence, which is very accurate, of the feminine energy flow. And I see it popping up all over the place, like around the globe and in different ways. And it has many different names for it. They call it earth energy, sensual energy, core energy, creative energy, sexual energy, feminine energy, divine feminine. I mean, there's all these different labels that essentially are meaning the same thing, or they're just different little aspects of the same root fundamental. And for us, the root fundamental is the reemergence of this feminine energy flow. And I'm actually just going to bring in Mr. Flip Chart and illustrate it this way. Okay, I'm just going to move this like so. Is it black? Yeah, there we are. I have a little tablet computer and I'm moving an awful lot of data through this thing. So I actually have a little fan right here to kind of keep it as cool as I can. So no fires. We're good. So this is you. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take these off just so they're not clicking and clacking all over everything. Actually, I got this. Did a Reiki treatment the other day, and I got this really cool bracelet that she made for you. Very nice. Okay, let's go back. So I think probably all of you that are watching this are going to have at least some familiarity with energy centers in our bodies called chakras. And I'm going to just do a really quick layout of them. So again, I'm going to approach this from the assumption that you have at least some understanding of what chakras are, and that will be just fine. There are 7 main ones. They basically, if you wanted to give them a physical reference point, they go kind of right down your spine. They're numbered 1, 2, where am I at here? 3, 4, 5. I'll go through this piece fairly quickly. 7. They all have names, right? I'll go through them really, really quickly. And then what I want to do is give a little bit of an illustration of what this feminine energy is, how it flows, and one of the most common areas that it gets blocked or restricted in our physical body. Let me think. I'm going to do this, do this. So really quickly, the first chakra, root chakra, is right in the base of our tailbone. The second chakra, or the sacral chakra, which is what we're going to talk about, is right in your lower lumbar. The solar plexus is pit of your stomach, so that's 3. 4 is your heart. 5, which is opening up in me right now, is in the throat. The 6th is your brow chakra. That's been really ramping up for a lot of folks lately. One of the reasons that you're sleeping and not sleeping, or you can't sleep at all, or you sleep and the dreams are so vivid you feel like you didn't sleep at all. And then the 7th one, which is right on top of your head. So what I'm going to do is we're going to focus on the general, okay, this is a general kind of a high level overview of the feminine energy, how it flows into our personal energy system. So I'm going to call that our chakras, and then we feel it in our body. So the feminine energy, I'm just going to abbreviate here, or the feminine flow, feminine, or the feminine, more coffee. To give it a direction, it flows from beneath. So it flows from below up, and it enters our personal energy systems, right? So your chakras, right? Through the root chakra. And in the conversations group and some of the workshops that we do, we go into this in depth, both virtually and in person. So that's where it enters. This feminine energy flows, enters into your root chakra. And then in the sacral. Now the sacral is, as we talked about, right, your lower lumbar area. So if you just kind of draw a band, a horizontal band, that gives you a pretty good idea of the sacral chakra. Now this is really interesting because it's almost like a staging area, or kind of okay, all right. So in a way, you can think of it this way. I'm going to take a breath in. Okay, where's that breath? The breath is in my lungs, right? Now I'm going to exhale. Right? So in a way, you can look at it as I breathe in feminine energy coming in through the root chakra into my lungs, which is the sacral chakra, which holds it. And then as I exhale, it's flowing up. So I'm inhaling, it's coming in through that root chakra. It resides in the sacral chakra, but it's not designed to stay there. It's designed to then flow up through the entirety of our energy systems. So the flow of the feminine flow, wow, is it enters into your personal energy system in your root chakra. It flows in. It's held in the sacral chakra to be released through the rest of your personal energy system, which of course then you feel in your body as this energy is flowing. Let me just get rid of some of this stuff here. So that's like I said, a really general overview of how it flows. But what I want to talk about now, boy, throat chakra, interesting, is one of the common areas where it gets stuck. One of the characteristics of the feminine flow is it flows in waves. So in a way, and I often will teach and use my breath to help kind of initiate or deepen the flow. So as just as I showed you there, so I'm gonna use my breath, and I'm gonna show you on Mr. Flip Chart what's happening. So when I inhale, flowing, oops. So I inhale into the root, into the sacral, held in the sacral. On the exhale, flows up. So it's like a wave. In, and then release. In, and then release. So this area in our sacral chakra, that band, is designed to sort of temporarily hold it and then for it to be released. So it flows in and then be released, just like air, right? You draw air in, it's in your lungs temporarily, exhale, and it flows out. Same thing. Now, often, for a variety of reasons, I may touch on them briefly, it gets stuck. And guess where it gets stuck? Right in that sacral chakra. Now, okay, so this is going to be a big teachings in a little tiny nutshell. So this energy center, again, in your lower lumbar, each chakra has sort of a physical aspect to it and a non-physical, and we'll just go with that for now. So the physical aspect of your sacral chakra, again, if you just draw the band, that horizontal band, it gives you a really good idea of the general functions areas of our body. So with the sacral chakra, it's of course lower back, hips. I'll go through this pretty quickly. I call it the elimination process. So not so much elimination organs, but the process of elimination, and the sex organs, right? So just draw the band, right? Now, the non-physical, this is where it's really interesting. I call it our material world. So not just money, but things, right? And sexual expression. So the expressing of that, and I'm going to even change that up a little bit, because that word often gets all sorts of crazy connotations to it. I'm going to do sensual expression. Now, what's the difference? As I said, that feminine energy, it's I call it sensual energy. You feel it, right? You can take that sensual energy and you can express it in a whole variety of ways. Now, that's the cool thing about this. Mr. Flip Chart, we're back. So you can use this feminine energy here, right? You can direct it almost for physical healing. You can direct it to, I don't know, just enhance that aspect of your physical body. You could also direct it into your material world, one of which is finances. This sensual energy and this reemergence of the sensual energy, we can now use that and express it in our external world as it relates to finances. Now, how trippy and cool is that? And the sensual expression, of course, the first thing that comes to people's heads is sexual expression. Yeah, you could do it that way, but you can also express it in a whole variety of other ways. It becomes that passion. It becomes that power. It becomes that vibrancy in everything that you do. See, that's the real cool thing about this, is this energy. We can express that sensually, if you will, in that passion and that power and that vibrancy and that vitality in everything that we do in life. See, that's what the nature of this energy is. The nature of this energy is about expressing and flowing and living and all those really, really cool things. This is one of the most common areas where the energy can get stagnant, because we have been, especially in our Western world, we have been taught that sensual. Well, we don't know anything about it in so many respects, and what we do has been so skewed and stifled, and that expressing of that sensual energy, because we've equated sensual energy, sexual expression is the same thing, but you can express it in so many different ways. Healing in your own body, vibrancy in your own body, passion in everything that you do. But because that has been stifled and constrained and constricted, in many ways, it would be like, hold my breath. This air is really good, but not for forever, right? I can't hold it forever. It gets stale. It gets whatever. Or think of it as water, right? Water that is stagnant and sits, what happens to it, right? That's the same thing that happens with this. This energy is designed to flow and move. And for these are just some of the reasons that I shared, it gets stuck here and can't move. And then when it can't move, it starts to manifest not as vibrancy and vitality, but now it manifests as issues in all of this, including finances, by the way. Isn't that interesting? That's one of the things that we talk about quite a bit about in the Conversations Facebook group, and virtual and even in-person workshops that will be coming up shortly. Esther Hicks, who I follow quite a bit, I'm going to wrap up. Esther Hicks, who I follow quite a bit, she talks about manifesting, of course, and she says one of the downsides to the whole process is you have to feel good, right? I think that's the thing, is we've even taken feeling good, like that deep sensual, right? I feel like coffee. Oh, that coffee feels so good. Oh, right? We've taken that. We've decided that, first of all, you're not even supposed to experience it. And if you are, just a little bit. And you have to earn it, and on and on and on. So we've just messed this up really, really well for a variety of reasons. But what's happening is that feminine energy is now reemerging. And it's moving through, and it's pushing so many of those impurities, if you want to call it that stagnant energy out, which really fits well with the first part of the show. Because this is the energy that creates. This is the energy that gives form to. And in this new city, if you just tuned in, I'm referring to the 777 topic. In this new city that we find ourselves in, the way that we navigate it isn't so much now this map that we go here and go here and go here. It's taking this energy and just kind of riding that flow and guiding it and exploring and discovering. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in so much. What I do afterwards is I clip the 2 segments and I post them as well, so you can just kind of jump to those if you wish. I also post them in the appropriate groups. So the 777 Club, Subscription Club, all about manifesting, all sorts of cool things happen there. DM me for information. Conversations we all want to have relates to convergence. We just finished talking about that. If you want to be part of that group, DM me as well. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the web.